Today on the DML News podcast, the whole day, we're going to be talking about Kamala Harris, Tim Walz, Dana Bash, and the disaster on CNN. I can't believe we got to talk about this. She shouldn't even be the nominee, but she is. So get ready, because today is going to be fun. It's a Friday, and it's all unfiltered.
Dennis Michael Lynch gives you his word, and he will never let you down. He will always fight for America.
The only one who really puts his money where his mouth is Dennis Michael Lynch.
Hello, I'm Dennis Michael Lynch, and I thank you for joining me today. Across from me is my son, Denny. He is my co-host. On the other side of the, I don't know, I guess you would call that the production desk, we have Ryan, my other son. He does all the controls. We have some new equipment in here. Ryan is trying to handle it all at the same time. Not an easy task, so if we have a couple of burps along the way, forgive us. It's all new equipment that we got in the last couple of days. That said, Denny is going to be managing the live chat on Team DML. And if anybody has a question on Team DML or a good response to something we talk about, Denny will broadcast it and say that person by name. And for those of you who are on Rumble, who are on X, watching us live, we appreciate you. We ask you if you consider to become a Team DML member. It's pretty inexpensive, and you can check it out at teamdml.com. It helps us stay in business because we don't read ads. We don't do advertisements. That makes one of the big differences between us and the other guys. With that being said, let me open up by saying that last night, my wife and I cozied up on the sofa, and I did something I haven't done in a long time. I poured myself a scotch. I don't drink at nighttime anymore. It's not good for the gut. But I knew I wouldn't be able to get through that CNN interview without having a little bit of liquor in me. And the first thing that popped out, and I said to my wife, this is going to be an hour of fakeness. And she said, well, how can you tell? I said, well, look at the chyron, or lower third, as we call it in the industry. You call it that lower banner that says CNN and has all the descriptors on it. And on the top right, it said live. It wasn't live. It was a taped interview at 1:45 in the day. So we don't know exactly what was cut out. And trust me when I tell you, I can tell that that had a minimum of 3 cameras in it. And so when you have a 3-camera shoot, it is very easy to manipulate whatever it is you want to manipulate. That's number one. Then the second thing is my wife and I kept on volleying back and forth and saying, can you believe she said that? Did she really say that? Did she just blame Trump? Here's what I come down to. Denny and I are going to play a series of clips, the ones that stood out to me the most in the interview. We're going to analyze those clips, and I'm going to give my 2 cents, and at times I may actually lose my mind because I just can't believe we are at this point in time in the United States of America. The 2 biggest things that I come away with, I'm going to tell you here at the beginning, and then I'll support it as the show progresses. Number 1, Dana Bash should be completely 110% ashamed of herself. She's pathetic. She doesn't even deserve to be considered a journalist, let alone a TV personality. She is horrible. If for some reason my wife was to divorce me and then I was shipped off to a deserted island and the only other person on there was Dana Bash, trust me when I tell you, I'd be a monk for the rest of my life. I look at that woman and I don't even know, is she pretty? Is she not? I have no idea. What spews from her mouth makes her one of the most ugliest human beings in America. You have a woman who has ducked the press for months. She has ducked the press. Back when she was a vice president, she ducked the press because she didn't want to talk about Joe Biden. And when she did, she lied through her teeth. Now she's the nominee. She won't sit down for a live interview. In fact, last night, she had to go in with her emotional support dog, also known as Tim Walz. She doesn't do it live. She does it taped, and she does it in friendly fire, which is CNN, the most liberal news network ever created. Although MSNBC likes to give it a run for its money. But last night, she sat down and was asked simple questions. And even the ones that were hard, I was like, oh, okay, she's asking about the border. Dana Bash never pushed back. She never asked for any detail. She asked a question. She got a bunch of rumbling, bumbling, rocks in the mouth answers from that brain of mashed potato that sits in Kamala Harris's head, and she just accepted. She didn't push back. A real journalist, a real person with any sort of talent when it comes to interviewing, especially a candidate for the presidency of the United States, the leader of the free world, somebody who has been purposely ducking an interview, you've got to ask the follow-up questions. People want answers. If she's got an answer, let her give it. If she doesn't have an answer, ask her why. If she does one of those tap dancing answers, push her. You come down on the side of the truth each and every time when you are a journalist. That is the only way you can ever give anybody on the other side the information that they need in order to be informed. That is the only way that you can actually keep your head high and put your head on the pillow and fall asleep. Dana Bash should be sleepless. She allowed everything that people want to know to just pass on by. And we'll get into the nitty-gritties, Denny and I will, as we play the clips. That was the number one thing, that Dana Bash is an absolute train wreck. And that's why CNN has the lowest ratings ever. That's why CNN is not respected anymore. That's why they're nearly out of business. That's why they had to close down CNN Plus. That's why they're going through CEOs like I go through bottles of water. They cannot get to the truth because they don't want the truth to be revealed. If you didn't get that from last night, then I don't know what program you were watching, but it was a cover-up for Kamala Harris. A great question that never came up, I can't play the clip, is why have you ducked the media? Why haven't you sat down on a one-on-one in a live event without having to have your emotional puppy dog next to you? That's number one. Number two, and maybe the more important of the two, Donald Trump is hated, man. I never recognized, I always knew he was hated. I knew so many people hated him. Last night was the true reveal of how many people actually hate Donald J. Trump. They hate him. There's more haters than you and I want to admit. On the other side, you got people who either love Donald J. Trump, like Donald J. Trump, or tolerate him for the sake of not crazy about him as a person, but I like his policies. For every single one of those people, there's somebody who hates him. They hate him. And do you want to know why I came up with that? Why I came to that conclusion last night? Why I told my wife he's the most hated human being that I ever recall being famous? They hate him because that is the only way that you would allow Kamala Harris to be your candidate. It is the only way. It's the only way. She has absolutely no right being in that chair. Zero. She offers nothing. Zero. She lies. She's incompetent. She's inept. She doesn't have a damn clue. That's why she doesn't get the follow-up questions. I would have said, Kamala, can you explain what inflation is? If you could explain it, maybe we'd understand a little bit more about what some of your programs are, because they don't make sense. She wouldn't be able to explain it. When you put somebody like that in the chair of the candidate, that means that you are willing to do anything and sacrifice anybody. And in her case, it's somebody who's willing to lie through her teeth and flip-flop 100 times and say anything that needs to be said in order to pull a vote because you hate Donald Trump. Donald Trump's policies work. We know this. If Donald J. Trump was to get back into office tomorrow, inflation would be out the window within the shortest period of time. The world chaos would come to an absolute standstill. The border would be closed and America would be back on its path to being great. It'd probably take about 12 months to settle everything in. Every single person in this country, whether you're a Democrat, Republican, or an independent, would wind up benefiting from this. The people who hate him most, like the New York Times, would double their subscriptions just basically covering him for 4 years. But they don't care. They hate our America so much so that they are willing to do anything they can to prop up Kamala Harris to be something she isn't. I want to repeat that. They hate our America so much so. And the thing about hate, and I know some of you will disagree with me, but hate is more powerful than love in the sense that it is so eerie and dangerous. People kill out of hatred. People do the most stupidest, evil things out of hatred. Somebody who understands that our freedom, our security, our money is all at risk right now. Everything is at risk right now if Kamala Harris gets into the presidency. We will have Kamala camps. I ain't kidding. We'll talk about that in a minute. We will have Kamala camps in the same way they had them down in Australia if another COVID comes around. Everybody knows this, and yet they're still going to roll the dice on Kamala. Why? Not because she's a great candidate or would be a great president, but because they simply hate Trump. And that's the fact of the matter. Dennis, she talked last night about leadership. And I just sat there and I was like, no way, you got to be kidding me. I'd like to play that clip and get your 2 cents on it before I explode. Yes? Or implode. I don't know what the right word is, but go ahead, Ryan. Put the clip of her talking about leadership.
I'm talking about an era that started about a decade ago, where there is some suggestion, warped I believe it to be, that the measure of the strength of a leader is based on who you beat down, instead of where I believe most Americans are, which is to believe that the true measure of the strength of a leader is based on who you lift up. That's what's at stake as much as any other detail that we could discuss in this election.
Your take on her words right there about the leadership.
My take on her words is that if word salads could be real salads, I think she'd be the ultimate chef. Because at this point, I know it's a strategy by most politicians, especially Democrat ones, and she really plays into it. There are never any direct answers, and right there, just her description as a whole of what she thinks it means to be a leader is one, proof in the pudding that she does not have what it takes to be a leader. And then two, it just also shows that everything she's saying, she has not followed those same metrics as a California senator or as a vice president. And just to kind of go off with your opening here, I don't think you can find a more worse setup and situation than what that interview was last night. Because when you compare Trump, who I saw a breakdown, I think it was on X, his last 4 interviews, including the one he did with Elon Musk, right, were anywhere between 50 minutes to literally over an hour to almost 2 hours long. He's doing these like out of left field podcasts. He is in there. He's embedded. Same with J.D. Vance, how we discussed it yesterday. This was 18 minutes, pre-recorded. Even the way CNN is breaking it up on YouTube, part 1, part 2. It's the way to give that feeling that it was this really big event. At the end of the day, it was, talk about a salad, it was chopped up. And Dana Bash has to be the worst kind of reporter, not just even because she's asking softball questions. There's no pushback from her.
Well, that's the whole point of what I was saying is that she asked, there were some questions she asked that had some toughness to it. But then she took an answer that was a run-on answer. She never interrupted. No. She said, basically what she said through her body language was, say whatever it is that you want to say and have no fear of me coming back unless you completely don't answer the question. And when you talk about, she said the word about leadership. Kamala says, we had Trump basically showing that leadership is beating down on people where real leadership is lifting up. So let me give 2 comments about that, okay? Because no joke, I spilled a little bit of my scotch when it was happening because I was shaking when I was doing it. First of all, Trump didn't beat down on anybody. Trump got beaten down on. They faked these impeachment hearings. They told us before it even happened that he went and swore in that they were going to impeach him. He didn't even do anything. They were going to impeach him. They did it not once, but they did it twice for total BS. They beat it on this man every single day. He never had one positive press clipping ever in any of these liberal places. Not a single one. They beat down on him. And what did he do? He came to work every single day and he donated his salary to the United States of America. That's number one. Number two, under Kamala Harris and Joe Biden, you tell me who got lifted up in this country. We all got our ass kicked. They took our knees out. Are you kidding me? Where I've got people who are losing their homes, they're losing their cars, credit card debt and defaults are at the highest level they've ever been. We've got our tax money going to Ukraine to open up brand new bars and discos. Zelensky, God knows what it is that he's got in his closet. He dresses up in his IRS suit, basically to say like, oh, I got no money. You go in his closet, he's going to have our many suits down the row. He's probably got 4 Ferraris. We're sending all of our money to crap. Then on top of that, we abandon Israel. We allow the Jewish students in this country to be treated as if they're the gum on the bottom of your shoe. Pro-Palestine, pro-Hamas. Kill them from the river to the sea, slamming and screaming down on people at U.S. universities, outside the White House, outside Union Station in Washington, D.C., taking graffiti all over the Liberty Bell. That's lifting people up. The only people who got lifted up in this country over the last 3.5 years were the freaking illegal aliens who were lifted up into the best hotels, given free phones, free money, free food, free access to everything, and the American citizen is getting their ass kicked. And this broad is going to sit there and tell me that's the difference of leadership? She couldn't lead herself out of a freaking cardboard box.
Totally. And you think everything you just pointed out would be questions that Dana Bash would ask. But instead, I mean, I know we got more to play, but one that we don't even have on the docket is one that you called yesterday, which is she brought up, Trump's claim that, she's not really a black woman. And, it was just a way to get that catchy soundbite to show that Kamala's above it all. And it was such a fluff interview. I can't believe that there was even any hype about this whatsoever. The fact that it was 18 minutes says it all. There's even an inside source, and I saw it from X at the CNN studio saying that a lot had to be cut and that they even had to cut it short because she was getting tied up, meaning Kamala. So it's very clear at this point that this not only, it was almost like a ripping the Band-Aid, because I'm sure at this point they kind of said, hey, you got to do something here because you can only kind of run cover so much. Let Dana ask some of those little toughy questions, but then let her ask some toss-up questions that can make you look a little bit better.
We got a toss-up question right here. Now, this is a typical question, so I don't blame Dana Bash for saying this one because everybody asks this one, but she asks Kamala Harris what she'll do on the first day of her presidency. You got that clip ready, Ryan? Go.
Well, there are a number of things. I will tell you, first and foremost, one of my highest priorities is to do what we can to support and strengthen the middle class. When I look at the aspirations, the goals, the ambitions of the American people, I think that people are ready for a new way forward. In a way that generations of Americans have been fueled by hope and by optimism. I think, sadly, in the last decade, we have had in the former president someone who has really been pushing an agenda and in an environment that is about diminishing the character and the strength of who we are as Americans, really dividing our nation. And I think people are ready to turn the page on that.
So what would you do day one?
Day one, it's going to be about, one, implementing my plan for what I call an opportunity economy. I've already laid out a number of proposals in that regard, which include what we're going to do to bring down the cost of everyday goods, what we're going to do to invest in America's small businesses, what we're going to do to invest in families, for example, extending the child tax credit to $6,000 for families for the first year of their child's life to help them buy a car seat, to help them buy baby clothes, a crib. There's the work that we're going to do that is about investing in the American family around affordable housing, a big issue in our country right now. So there are a number of things on day one.
Good heavens. I have so many things down here that I wrote based on this one, so I'm just going to go through them as quick as I can, but with as much detail as I can. Dennis, if you have anything on Team DML you want to spit it out after this. So, first of all, her thing now is new way forward. So if you can't tell, she's stealing from the Obama playbook. This woman does not have an original thought at all, okay? She's talking about hope. She's talking about new path forward. It's like she's reading the Obama signs. That's it. She's nothing original. If not, she's borrowing from Trump. Don't be surprised tomorrow if she doesn't come out with a new slogan called Make America Great Again. Number two, she says that Trump divided this nation. Trump divided this nation? Wait a second. If I remember correctly, I had Joe Biden get up on wherever he was getting up on, probably with the help of somebody holding his hand, and he told me that the unvaccinated people in this country were causing people to die, and it was the pandemic of the unvaccinated. That's not divisive? What about when he told people that you're not black if you don't vote for him? That's not divisive? What about that crazy press conference when he had the devils and everything else back behind him and everything was all lit like the devil? This guy has done nothing other than destroy any sort of unity that was ever still there in this country. It is the most divisive administration since the Obama days, and that's hard to say. Secondly, starting to get into the more important stuff about her economic plan. She says that she's going to be a champion for the middle class and that people need change. What the hell? Why is this woman getting away with, Dana Bash? Why is she getting away with pretending as if she just didn't spend the last 3.5 years in the White House? She has had the controls on this. Her and Joe Biden have had the controls on this. And Dana Bash said to her, are you saying that Bidenomics was a good thing? She's been saying all along that Bidenomics is a good thing. And last night she couldn't say, no, it wasn't. She's talking out of both sides of her mouth, which you can't do. She's going to come up with new opportunities. She's going to have an opportunity economy, whatever that means. An opportunity for what? Illegal aliens? Because nobody else sees the opportunity. She's going to fix on the fixing of price gouging, which doesn't exist. And somebody had to tell her in her camp, hey, man, you sound like a communist with the whole price gouging, price fixing thing. Stop that. She doesn't. She doubles down. Don't forget the roadmap that Barack Obama gave us. Nobody paid attention when Barack Obama said we are 5 days away from fundamentally transforming the United States of America. We just thought it was a slogan. It wasn't. It was a plan. She's telling you the same thing. Price fixing. She could have changed her tone. She ain't changing her tone. She's keeping the same words. That means she's basically saying to the entire country, screw you, I'm going to wind up doing price fixing. And that's the way it's going to go because that's how you start socialism, which eventually turns into communism. Secondly, she says she's going to take care of small businesses. What are you going to do with small businesses? How are you going to do that? I mean, in order to basically give a small business a chance, the number one thing you could do for them, which Trump did, was lower their taxes. Her entire plan is based on tax increases. She wants to tax corporations more. She wants to tax individuals more. She wants to tax unrealized gains at 25%. She's going to run everybody out of business. She's going to put everybody in the freaking grave. And then she talks about her affordable housing thing. Everybody talked about it as well. She's going to give $25,000 additional down payments to people. Guess what's going to happen? I'm selling my house. I know you're getting a $25,000 stipend from the United States government. I'm lifting my price by $25,000, and I'm going to put you in a house that you really can't afford. And what's going to happen? More defaults, and the banks are going to collapse. Why doesn't Dana Bash ask one damn simple question about this woman's opportunity economy? Because the only opportunity there is for China to take over in terms of the monetary system. The U.S. dollar is going to fall to nothing. We are no longer going to be the gold standard. We're going to be the puppy dog looking up and begging for a bone.
When people ask Trump, right, what would you do day one? You get solid, concrete answers. Oh, we're going to drill. Oh, we're going to deport these illegals. Oh, we're going to start holding, deep state officials accountable. You can't get anything direct with her. Like you said, the opportunity economy is so vague and just so bullshitting this that you would wonder, okay, where was this on day one of you and Joe Biden's administration? And the truth is, she doesn't want to give concrete details because one, she, I don't believe, is smart enough to have her own concrete details. It's all fed by Obama and her handlers. And then two, if she were to actually give what the grand plan is, I think it would shock people. This interview was supposed to be the opportunity to bring her to the stage because she hasn't done anything with this kind of platform. And if anything, it's been negative. I mean, she was in friendly territory with the friendliest liberal reporter she could possibly be given, Tim Walz right next to her, and it was cut down to 20 minutes and pre-recorded, and yet people still came away with, okay, this was awful and horrible. Like, she can't even manage doing something like that in the most safe of terms and safe of categories and environments. So, we do have some comments here from the Team DML chat. Debbie Hobson also kind of is echoing what I said in that Kamala never once answered any question directly, or at least as close to direct as you could possibly get. Then you have Kim Donnelly here asking, I would like to know if the flip-flopper and Tampon Tim will do a live interview with a reputable reporter before the election. And she says, as an endpoint, I personally can't stand the lying.
Kamala Harris just checked a huge box last night. Now she could go and say, you said I wasn't doing an interview. I did an interview. In fact, not only I give you me, but I gave you my vice president. She's going to spin it as if she didn't need her emotional support dog, and instead trying to say, hey, we're totally transparent. Now you get both of us, right? So that is her checking of the box. She's not coming out again until September 10 when she has the debate. The debate is going to be the most important evening of the entire election series of evenings, because that's when Trump has to really shine. Does she do an interview after that? She's only going to do an interview after that if she has to make up for the disastrous debate performance, which I think we're ready to see pretty soon.
Well, even Anita wrote in the chat, the debate should be a real doozy. I mean, I think that leads to the question, some people are even skeptical if the debate's still going to happen.
It's going to happen. Trust me when I tell you. She doesn't have. She can't not go. Ryan, I want to play the video of her talking about immigration and blaming Trump on the open border. Can you get that clip? All right, Ryan's going to play this clip. Take a listen.
Issue, big one, is immigration. As Vice President, you were tasked with addressing the root causes of migration in southern countries and
Northern part of Central America.
the northern part of Central America that affects the southern border of the U.S. During the Biden-Harris administration, there were record numbers of illegal border crossings. Why did the Biden-Harris administration wait 3.5 years to implement sweeping asylum restrictions?
Well, first of all, the root causes work that I did as vice president, that I was asked to do by the president, has actually resulted in a number of benefits, including historic investments by American businesses in that region. The number of immigrants coming from that region has actually reduced since we began that work. But I will say this, that Joe Biden and I and our administration worked with members of the United States Congress on an immigration issue that is very significant to the American people and to our security, which is the border. And through bipartisan work, including some of the most conservative members of the United States Congress, a bill was crafted, which we supported, which I support. And Donald Trump got word of this bill that would have contributed to securing our border. And because he believes that it would not have helped him politically, he told his folks in Congress, don't put it forward. He killed the bill.
Okay, I got a lot to say here. I got to unpack a bunch of stuff here. So, first of all, she's going to blame Trump. She blames Trump for the open borders and the mass migration that we've had at the border, unprecedented in my lifetime. She's going to blame Trump because Trump went and told people in the Republican Party not to approve their stupid border bill. That is the biggest lie of all time, and Dana Bash doesn't push back on it at all. Let me give a couple of reasons why it's a lie. First of all, I don't know if she mentioned it in the clip. I wasn't listening to the clip. I was reading. But there is a part of that interview where she says we would have been able to supply 1,500 more Border Patrol agents. So let me ask a question to the general audience here. Do you think for 1 second the migrant from Iraq or the migrant from Brazil or the one from Central America is going to say to his friend and amigo who's going up there with him, we can't make this journey. They got another 1,500 Border Patrol agents. Of course not. This isn't a matter of manpower. We're not getting overrun at the border because we don't have enough people to stop the holes and plug the holes. Those 1,500 people would have been nothing more than expensive Uber drivers driving people from the border to the bus station and to the airport. So anybody who understands about immigration, clearly she doesn't, knows that that wouldn't solve anything. In that border package, there were things about asylum, there were things about amnesty that had to be turned down. It had to 100% be turned down. The reason why we have this unprecedented immigration has nothing to do with the Border Patrol bill. It has to do with that on the first week of Joe Biden being in office, he ripped up 92 executive orders from Trump. He did everything he could to destroy the shutdown border that we had. He sold off the border wall for pennies on the dollar. He did nothing. He invited everybody into this country, and it went around the world. That's what happened. That's the truth. Why didn't Dana Bash say that? She's been doing this for the entire time. She knows what's going on. Then Kamala Harris says that since she started doing her work to find out what the key reason was for people to come to the... What was the key reason that she found out? What's the source of illegal immigration? What are you going to tell me, that it's bad times back at home and that's why they're coming? Because they're fleeing bad governments? What are you talking about? We've got real video from along the border. Everybody goes down there and says, why are you coming here to the United States? Nobody says I'm fleeing my country because I'm being persecuted, because I'm gay or because I'm conservative or because I'm liberal or because whatever. No, they're coming for a job. They all say it. I'm coming for a job. I'm coming to make money. I'm coming for freedom. Freedom of going wherever the hell I want without papers, and you're not going to stop me. That's why they're coming. 3.5 years, this woman. And then she's going to say, our numbers are down since I did my work. Your numbers are down? When you go from 300,000 people coming across a border to 100 to 150, that's not an accomplishment. That's stopping the bleeding. Trump, when Trump took office back in 2017, 3 months after he took office, the numbers at the border were down to 15,000 apprehensions, simply because he spoke tough. No bill, no executive order, no comprehensive this or that, just telling people that the party was over. You, Kamala Harris, and your boy never went down to the border ever. When you were asked about going down to the border, you laughed. Well, I haven't been to Europe either. You didn't care about the border. You left it open on purpose because you wanted the voter base and because you want to change this country significantly to socialism. And you know that if you change the face and change the attitude of this country and make it to where the migrants are the ones who are the majority, they're just going to be happy with anything you give them because they came from nothing and now they got nothing plus. It's us people, the ones who knew how to fight for ourselves and scream out loud that you're taking away our freedoms. We're the ones you want to eviscerate because you can't boss us around. That's why you've let these borders stay open. And there's no other way about it, Dennis. Trump's fault. The fact that Dana Bash let that happen on her show is just pathetic.
Shirley here raises a good question in the chat. Do you believe the questions were, she says clowns, but do you believe the questions were given to these clowns beforehand?
Listen, I could guarantee two things in this world. Number one, the sun set of rules was we want to know what the questions are, and if we don't like one of the questions, we're not going to answer it, and you're going to edit it out. I wouldn't even be surprised. I don't know if CNN would go this far, because if this was learned, it would be pretty devastating. But I wouldn't. If there may have been an unwritten agreement that her team got to see the final product before it was actually put out. No shock on that one. No shock on that one at all.
I would not be shocked at all. I mean, look, there's no doubts here that CNN plays for that team very heavily. There's even the speculation she may have had an earpiece for certain questions because she had to answer. You don't believe so?
That's bullshit. No, because look, I've been on TV a million times. You give they get an earpiece so they could hear from the control room when the control room is saying, all right, we're going to cut, all right, we have to stop, or whatever it may be. That's a standard thing in television. So that's conspiracy 101.
Well, no, meant for Kamala for some of the answers to some of those questions.
No. I can tell by the way she's answering the questions. I mean, look, if you've never been on television, but when I used to go on Megyn Kelly, this is a perfect one. Megyn Kelly used to be live TV, right? So there's other Fox shows that were recorded, but on live television, there is nothing more annoying than like right now when I'm speaking to have somebody speaking in my ear. It is impossible to do. Right? It is so hard to do. So when I used to go on Megyn, I used to say, no, I don't want the clip. You know, if you want us to end, just say, you know, wrap it up, give me an eye signal or something like that, but I don't want it. So trust me when I tell you, that's just conspiracy stuff. But if we go back to the clips, here is what I think was the most damaging clip to her all night long. This is about Joe Biden's dementia. Go.
Vice President Harris, you were a very staunch defender of President Biden's capacity to serve another 4 years. Right after the debate, you insisted that President Biden is extraordinarily strong. Given where we are now, do you have any regrets about what you told the American people?
No, not at all. Not at all. I have served with President Biden for almost 4 years now, and I'll tell you, it's one of the greatest honors of my career, truly. He cares so deeply about the American people. He is so smart and loyal to the American people. And I have spent hours upon hours with him, be it in the Oval Office or the Situation Room. He has the intelligence, the commitment, and the judgment and disposition that I think the American people rightly deserve in their president.
Look, Dana Bash is irrelevant in the big scheme of things, but she has a responsibility. You have a responsibility. If you're going to sign up to be a journalist, if you're going to sign up to be an on-air personality and an anchor, and you're going to interview such an important interview that was, you've got to ask the tough questions. She asked whether or not she has regrets about, saying that Joe is okay, and Kamala doubles down on Joe Biden is fine. He's smart. He's witty. He's got his head about him. Then the question would be this. All right, Kamala, if Joe isn't sick and if he isn't, dementia ridden, why isn't he running? Why are you here? That is the obvious question.
That whole question felt a little convoluted, and I'll have to even recant my statement about nothing direct. I mean, she was direct in answering, I have no regrets. To your point, if he is as fine and dandy as you say he is, and as sharp as you said, in the Situation Room and at the Oval Office, then why all of a sudden is there this big switcheroo that we all know was a lot more complicated behind the scenes than anyone wants to actually lead on? And they never get into that. And it's a shame because I want to levy a lot of criticism to Dana Bash because you compare her interview with J.D. Vance from 2 weeks ago to this interview, and the bias is so unbelievably clear. It's disgusting. And you look, maybe it wasn't an earpiece, but Shirley mentions it, Ginger Miller mentions it, and I kind of noticed it too watching the full thing. She looks down a lot as if maybe there was a little note card that you just can't see. And I believe it. I don't think it's conspiracy because she... in any time that she's in a natural situation, even at rallies or when she's visiting an elementary school, she word salads so much because I just don't think there's anything up there to convey a strong message. I really don't think she believes in anything. I think she just loves the idea that she could hold a powerful position in the United States government and just kind of grift off that. I don't think she really has the fundamental beliefs that a Barack Obama has. I mean, we talk about all the time how Obama really does have this set out for change, that he really wants to see the country make a 180 in his vision. I don't believe she really holds a vision. I believe she just loves the idea that she could be the first woman and first woman of color president of the United States. I think that's what it's always been about for her.
I'm going to go back to, this is meaningless really, but even if she has notes, I don't mind if she has notes.
It's not meaningless because when you see Trump or J.D. Vance going on, not having notes with clear policy vision and clear policy makings that they have ready to set out, and you got her having to rely on the fact that she just can't speak, openly and directly, I think is a huge problem.
I think listen, I'm not going to defend Kamala Harris. And I watched that interview last night. She is speaking. She's speaking to what she believes in, which is lying gets you to the top. If you've got notes, I mean, I have notes. I got notes in front of me right now. So I don't have a problem with notes. I wouldn't even have a problem if somebody was in her ear and said, hey, don't forget the number of new jobs was this. I don't have a problem with that. What I have a problem with, I don't care where she's getting her answers from. It's the answers she's giving. That's the crux. The crux here is the answer that she is giving is time and time again anti-America, anti-common sense.
But her answers keep switching up. At first, it was the border is border wall is an absolute disaster plan. It's discriminatory. Now all of a sudden she's for the border wall. Then all of a sudden now she wants a child tax credit. I mean, she is beyond flip-flopping. She is doing an absolute 180 if it's just going to help her in the polls. So that's why I say, I know you have your notes because we're running a show, but if you were about to go sit down for a live interview, especially to be the leader of the free world, I think our audience knows too. You have a clear vision of what you would do to handle illegal immigration, how they get the economy roaring. Like you have beliefs in a direction. I really don't think she does. I mean, if she were to apply anything...
She does. She has a belief in direction. The belief in direction is a radical left agenda. She was ranked as the most radical Democrat in the Senate. She was a radical AG. She has championed in the last couple of years more for criminals and illegal aliens than she has for American citizens. She does nothing other than bop around and speak about what Democrats can do for this country, and everything that she talks about is bad.
Then why is she doing a flip-flop on that she wants a border wall and she's supporting fracking now? I mean, she really is doing these 180s.
She's doing 180s because, well, first of all, if you look at the deeper basis of everything, it's that she's based on lies. She's a liar. So it doesn't matter what comes out of her mouth in the sense that this was what she said yesterday and this is what she says today. It's a lie. It's all based on a lie. So that's just it. You're a liar. Anything you say, it doesn't matter. But make no mistake, if you read between the lines and you see what she's saying, she may still flip-flop on certain things here and certain things there, but ultimately she's doing it because candidates move to the middle. When you are in your primary, you move to the far outskirts because you have to win your primary. Once you win the primary, you go into the center and you start saying things that will attract the center base because that's how elections are won. My bigger thing here, because at the end of the day, the independent at home or the person who's considering still who they should vote for, and believe me when I tell you, believe it or not, we get them. I get the emails from people. I got an email from a woman just the other day. She doesn't like something about J.D. Vance, so she's going to vote for Kamala Harris. So it's not a vote for Kamala; it's a vote against J.D. Vance. And I just sit there and I say, "Oh my God, they're so misinformed. They're so misinformed." I had another woman who's been following me for years send me an email the other day that she wasn't going to vote for the sheriff in our county because the sheriff in our county cheated on his wife, got divorced, and then remarried to the woman that he had the affair with. And I said, so wait a second, we've got a good sheriff in place. We've got crime down by 33%. You got a guy who basically is fitting into 60% of America in the fact that he's getting divorced, but he got remarried. It's not like he just had a one-night fling or whatever. He fell out of love and fell in love, and you're going to hold him accountable based on that, and you're going to put somebody in that we don't know what we're getting to solve crime in this. And then she's like, yeah, well, that's what I'm going to do. I said, well, I guess you're not going to vote for Trump because he's cheated on every wife he's had. And then all of a sudden I was going, no, I'll always vote for Trump. And he just sit there and he said, what goes in a person's head and juggles around? So what I try to do with this program is I always imagine that there's got to be one or two independents listening to this show and somebody who may be confused or somebody who's going to share it and say, just listen to this guy for a second. He makes a lot of sense. if you are an independent and you watched that thing last night and you came away saying, hey, you know what, she's not as bad as I thought she was, or she's not as bad as my brother said he was. She is horrible. It doesn't matter if she's reading off notes, somebody's in her ear, it doesn't matter. She is horrible. The things that she will do to this country, we will have Kamala camps. I guarantee you, if you go and look at Australia, what happened in Australia when they had COVID, they literally came up with camps. They were dragging people out of their home, even if they didn't have COVID, if they thought that they were exposed to somebody who had COVID, and they were throwing them in an isolation camp. No, I don't know about you, but going up to seeing that point of where COVID was, if somebody said to me, you can't live in the United States, where would you want to live? I would say Australia, because I always took Australia as being like the little mini U.S. First thing I would say is, I ain't going to Australia. They're going to throw me in a camp. Kamala camps will come here. If we have another COVID and you don't get vaccinated or you don't do what it is that they say you're doing, you're going to have a Kamala camp. I'm telling you, it's the next iteration of this whole thing. And I'm trying to explain to people, don't get caught up in the nuances of notes or no notes. Just get caught up in what it is that she's saying versus what she used to say. Get caught up in what she's saying that she shouldn't be saying. And she just lied to you about Joe Biden and his cognitive failures. Everybody knows. He basically stood down because all the people in his party said you can't win. They lost confidence after the whole debate, and she's pretending like it didn't happen. That's dishonesty on a stick.
Well, and look, so we have two questions here from Lisa and Kim in the chat asking if we're under the belief as well that she is a puppet for Obama and a Soros or even a Susan Rice. And I know we've talked before that we're in the belief of that. Kim also kind of asked the question, though, why do they want to do this to the country? Meaning slide it into a socialist state that eventually just kind of degrades into all-out communism.
I know Kim is somebody who listens to me every day, so I'm going to repeat something that I've said time again. And I always say I'm not going to repeat it again, but I do. Here comes number 1,000,001,001. When I sat down with Rudy Giuliani and I said, why can't we catch the scumbag Muslim extremists who want to blow up our cities? He said, it's because we can't put our mind in the head of a person who is going to kill innocent people in the name of thinking he's getting 20 virgins when he goes up to heaven. How do you think like that? How do you kill somebody for no reason in the name of religion? It's hard to catch them. I can't think them. John Gotti, I knew where you could bury the bodies, or how you chop up the car and try to sell off the parts, or how it is that you launder the money through gambling. But I can't do this. So my answer to Kim and everybody else is, I don't know. I can't understand how somebody would hate Donald Trump so much. I know what the core is. The core is they hate him. They hate Trump. It's not that they hate the country, Kim. It's not that they hate the idea of freedom. They take it for granted, but they hate Trump so much that they will do anything to get the poison out of their lives, even though he's not poisonous. And so, you know what a great question is? Something else I thought about last night, I just didn't put it in the open. One of the things I said to your mother last night was, if Ron DeSantis was the candidate right now, he'd be wiping the floor with her. And it's not because he's better than Trump or smarter than Trump. It's because he's not hated like Trump is hated. Right. And that's, at the end of the day, they hate Trump so much that we've got to try to squeak through this one and then hope that the next guy, whoever takes over his spot in the GOP, is not as hated as much. Reagan wasn't hated like Trump was hated. All right. And so it can be done. It's just they hate him so much. And unfortunately, there's always the guy who's got to break through. There's always the guy who's got to loosen the ketchup bottle, and Trump is the one. So maybe he makes it easier for everybody else who comes after him. I don't know. But I want to play, we got a couple more clips here and we're running late. We got Tim Walz lying about his DUI and about his wife and what she did for IVF. Play that clip.
You had to clarify that you had said that you and your wife used IVF, but it turned out you used a different kind of fertility in order to have children. And then when you ran for Congress in 2006, your campaign repeatedly made false statements about a 1995 arrest for drunk and reckless driving. What do you say to voters who aren't sure whether they can take you at your word?
Well, I've been very public. I think they can see my students come out, former folks I've served with, and they vouch for me. I certainly own my mistakes when I make them. The one thing I'll tell you is I wished in this country wouldn't have to do this. I spoke about our infertility issues because it's hell, and families know this. And I spoke about the treatments that were available to us that had those beautiful children there. That's quite a contrast in folks that are trying to take those rights away from us. And so I think people know who I am. They know that record. They've seen that. I've taught thousands of students. I've been out there. And I won't apologize for speaking passionately, whether it's guns in schools or protecting of reproductive rights. The contrast could not be clearer between what we're running against. The vice president's position on this has been clear. And I think most Americans get it if you've been through that. I don't think they're cutting hairs on IVF or IUI. I think what they're cutting hairs on is an abortion ban and the ability to be able to deny families the chance to have a beautiful child.
You know, it's ironic. I feel like Walz was brought in to kind of obviously soften the interview and help her out in the sense of answering, quote unquote, the tough questions. And yet I feel like he did equally as horrible because his whole shtick is that I'm supposed to be, you know, the direct Midwest guy. I tell it like it is. And yet I know we have another clip right after this when he's asked a pretty big question here about, you said IVF. It turns out it was a totally different fertility treatment. And then also you made lies about your DUI arrest. He just completely deflects and completely avoids it and just makes it almost not even just a deflection of answering, but a deflection of responsibility, making it seem like it's the issue of people bringing it up that is the crux of the problem there.
Of course. I mean, not only that, look what he did. He thinks it's masterfully. I mean, I caught up on it in 2 seconds. He's sitting there saying that the Republicans are trying to keep the Democrats or try to keep people from reproducing. I mean, you can't make this stuff up. If I'm Donna Bash, I say, whoa, wait a second. You're claiming that the Republicans are trying to keep you and people from having babies? Excuse me. You people are fighting tooth and nail for abortion, okay? And the Republicans are the ones who are trying the best they possibly can to make it for right to life. You're going to sit here and try to say that the other side is trying to keep you from having a baby? This is what I'm talking about. This is what I'm talking about. The average human being living in America who is not tied into politics, who isn't going to watch a live show on Rumble or Team DML or X or whatever it may be, who's just chiming in because they said, you know what, I want to learn more about them. They believe this stuff. And Dana Bash, as the journalist, has the responsibility to say, well, that's not true. How can you say that when you are sitting here trying to push for it to be that abortions are countrywide and complaining about it that some states won't allow it? So without a follow-up question like that, what you become in CNN is you become a propaganda machine. You give the little question, and then when he gives the answer, you just blow it off. Here's even a better one. I mean, this one was the cherry pick of Dana Bash just letting it go. Here's what's his face, Walz, on his military service.
The country is just starting to get to know you. I want to ask you a question about how you've described your service in the National Guard. You said that you carried weapons in war, but you have never deployed actually in a war zone. A campaign official said that you misspoke. Did you?
Well, first of all, I'm incredibly proud. I've done 24 years of wearing the uniform of this country. Equally proud of my service in a public school classroom, whether it's Congress or the governor. My record speaks for itself, but I think people are coming to get to know me. I speak like they do. I speak candidly. I wear my emotions on my sleeves, and I speak especially passionately about our children being shot in schools and around guns. So I think people know me. They know who I am. They know where my heart is. And again, my record has been out there for over 40 years to speak for itself.
And the idea that you said that you were in war, did you misspeak as the campaign has said?
Yeah, I said we were talking about, in this case, this was after a school shooting, the ideas of carrying these weapons of war. And my wife, the English teacher, told me my grammar is not always correct. But again, if it's not this, it's an attack on my children for showing love for me, or it's an attack on my dog. I'm not going to do that. And the one thing I'll never do is I'll never demean another member's service in any way. I never have, and I never will.
I mean, the balls on this guy.
My grammar's not correct. That is just
Grammar? As if like he used the past tense versus the current tense. I mean, I don't remember the exact clip. I wish we would have had more time. Ryan could have got it. I've watched the video, what he said. He said, they shouldn't be using the same guns that I carried in war. That's grammar? That's not grammar. I mean, the insult
yes.
to the American person who sat there and said, wait a second, I saw the clip where you said that you had that you had a gun in war. You're going to say that that was grammar? But then, again, going back to Dana Bash, this guy said his rank was one thing
Yes.
when it was another, and she didn't even bring it up.
Nope.
And it goes back to the question you asked me. Do I think the questions were pre-screened or approved? And I guarantee you she was not allowed to ask that question.
I
guarantee you.
They probably had a little brainstorming session of what could be passed for the test and what are we not touching. And 100%. And even, he's trying to jab at J.D. Vance a little bit with the I don't demean other people's service. J.D. Vance wasn't demeaning your service. In fact, he clarified that during his interview with, of course, Dana Bash a few weeks ago. What he was demeaning was lying about aspects of your service, because there are a lot of people who are pissed about, the stolen valor aspect. But there is no one more pissed than his fellow service members who served with him to hear those lies used for political gains.
Absolutely. Absolutely. When you sit there and you put on your... See, here's the difference. He can say, well, it was a grammar slip. I really didn't mean to say that. It was a word fart. It was a brain fart. I didn't mean to say that. I never served in war. Okay, you could get past that, right? I mean, how many times have I said... I mean, I've said... Actually, I was watching back one of the shows not so long ago, and I actually screwed up Minnesota with Michigan.
Yes.
And I said Minnesota. And then I went back and I'm like, Minnesota? Why did I say Minnesota? I meant Michigan. And then I said Michigan later on. So now if somebody comes back and plays that video and said, hey, by the way, you said Trump was going to win Minnesota. I'd be like, no. If you watch the videotape, I really said Michigan later on. I screwed it up with the two because I looked down at my notes and I didn't have my glasses on. You're going to forgive me for it because I have legitimacy there. So even if he wants to say it was a slip of the tongue, I didn't mean to say that I carried in war. I meant to say that I would have carried in war. I'll give you the benefit of the doubt, even though you've been a liar your entire life. I'll give you the benefit of the doubt. You can't cover up what he's done with his rank because he, to this day, has it printed on certain materials that he is a sergeant major, and he's not. He was a master sergeant. And so he lied about it. We have him on video multiple different times, and that's why he takes that out of the conversation. So I hope when he's got his VP debate against JD, that JD pounces on that.
Totally.
Because there is no grammar mistake there. There is no, oh, I wrote the wrong word. Oh, no, I only did it once. He's done it for decades, and you can drive him in on that. You could drive him in on that hard, and that shows how big of a liar he is. We've got another clip that is outside the realm of the CNN interview, which also shows, as far as I'm concerned, a bit of trickery. Here's a news report about the Kamala Harris, because this whole interview with CNN was held in Georgia. Mm-hmm. She had a live event in Savannah, Georgia. For those of you who are unfamiliar with the state of Georgia in terms of its geography, Savannah, Georgia is along the coastline. It's right on the Atlantic Ocean. It's the bottom part of the bottom east part of Georgia. And Atlanta is more towards the upper middle, the northern part, in the middle of the state. It is a 5-hour bus ride from one to the other. So I want you to be thinking, would I go on a bus for 10 hours? Play the clip.
At all. But catch this. It's been since 1992 since a presidential candidate came to Savannah, which was Bill Clinton in the hostess city. Now, at the End Market Arena itself, lines stretched around the venue, as I was just telling you, and people started getting here as early this morning for the vice president. But for those a little further away from the hostess city, shuttles to the rally contained a lot of excitement.
I was in Atlanta, and I heard that the vice president was going to be in Savannah, so I decided to just kind of beeline over here and check it out.
It is
I would want to ask every person on that bus, what were you incentivized with? Because I've mentioned on the podcast before, Trump could have a rally in the middle of the woods and people will find a way to get out there because he, I don't need to speak to the crowd here, but he excites a passion within his voter base that they love him, especially if you're someone who really has voted for Trump all the way through. And I can make the argument that that's not the case for Kamala, considering she never won any of her primaries. So the fact that people are going to go on that bus ride, because I know what you're talking about with that Atlanta to Savannah, naturally to do so raises some big questions. So I want to know, were you paid to do it? Were you offered something? Or were you told that there was going to be a big celebrity concert that was going to be the trade-off there? Because I don't think someone said naturally, oh, I really want to see Kamala so bad. Let me hop on this bus 5 hours there, 5 hours back.
Oh, listen, she has done everything possible. And from a strategic standpoint, you could say it's brilliant. I mean, it's brilliantly deceptive, but she has done everything possible to make it look like she is as popular as Donald J. Trump. And we must never, ever forget that the polls are designed to manipulate. The polls are designed to lie. They take polling, then they take out the selective part, and then they go. Just remember the old commercials, or you're too young for this, but back when we were kids, they used to have, I think it was for Crest or for one of these toothpastes, 9 out of 10 dentists say.
Yes, they still kind of do that.
Okay, so 9 out of 10 dentists, yeah. If you asked all the dentists and you put them all, probably 50% say, well, I'm not gonna support any kind of toothpaste. I only like the stuff that I use in my dentistry chair. But then they had 10, and they pulled out those 10, and 9 said, and that's selective pullouts. That's what they do with these polls, but they never tell you how it is. There's no transparency behind it. You want to know the truth? Look at the betting lines. Look at the betting lines of what people are putting their money on. Trump is back ahead. I haven't looked at it this morning. That'd be interesting. Look up Poly Market while we're still sitting here, because I got another clip to play. Look where it is right now. I know as of yesterday, Trump went back up by 2 points in terms of the betting line, because people are going to put their money where they believe the vote's going to be. And Trump has been winning this whole thing with the voting line. He's up in 4 out of the 6 swing states alone, just there alone in the betting lines. But while Denny's looking that up, I want to play another clip. This one is from Trump. This is Trump talking about abortion. Ryan, play this, and then we'll end the show.
You overturn,
everyone does.
I think Roe, does, yeah. And you want abortion to be a states' rights issue. In Florida, the state that you are a resident of, there's an abortion-related amendment on the ballot to overturn the 6-week ban in Florida. How are you going to vote on that?
Well, I think the 6 week is too short. It has to be more time, and so and I've told them that I want more weeks.
So you'll vote in favor of the amendment?
I am going to be voting that we need more than 6 weeks. Look, just so you understand, everybody wanted Roe v. Wade terminated for years, 52 years. I got it done. They wanted it to go back to the states. Exceptions are very important for me, for Ronald Reagan, for others that have navigated this very, very interesting and difficult path.
Yeah. So right now in the Poly Market, it still shows that Trump is winning and he's ahead. That, to me, is the poll you want to take a look at. But if you went to the New York Times poll or any of these other polls, even Fox News had a poll the other day, said that Kamala Harris is pulling ahead. It's total and complete BS. But I want to talk about that clip right there with Trump for a second, and talking about, Ryan, you're going to pull the camera out. It's right on your foot. It's right on your foot. Okay. I want to talk about the Trump clip right there with the abortion. I got to tell you, I've received a lot of emails lately, people saying, I wish Trump would stop talking about the abortion issue. It's a complete loser for us. And I agree completely. He shouldn't be talking about 6 weeks, 16 weeks, 20 weeks, or whatever. This is a no-win topic. This is like the First Amendment the Second Amendment to a constitutionalist or a conservative. It's like you saying to somebody, I'll let you keep your handgun, but I'm going to take your AR-15. No, you're not going to take any one of my guns. So there's no way of winning this argument. If I were Trump, if I was advising Trump, I would say the abortion issue is a very, very personal sort of thing, and it should be delivered to the states to decide, as it is now, and that's the way I'm going to leave it. That's the way he stops. But, there's a lot of programs out there that provide young couples and young girls with opportunities to adopt, to put their child up for adoption. You know, one of the things I covered this topic for a while back when I was doing stuff with Fox News. In fact, Megyn Kelly had asked me if I would go film. There's a thing called the March for Life. Every single year in January, there's 500,000 kids show up, mostly kids from around the country. And they'll stand there in freaking 2 below zero, and they're just there champion for the, you know, for the right to life. And I've looked into this heavily, and a lot of the young girls who wind up deciding to abort a child do so because they don't have the money. They're afraid. They say, how am I going to do this? I can't afford my own self-living. How am I going to do it for for a baby, especially if I don't have the guy around? And that person is usually in some pretty hard financial spots. They could go through the adoption process and not only be able to save a life and make another couple happy, but wind up getting themselves out of the financial woe that they're in. So I don't sit here and say, hey, listen, we should get into the business of selling your baby. But when you look at all things, it's only positive, positive, and positive. So when I looked at this, I learned a long time ago, there is no way to have this conversation politically and come away where you're going to pull anybody who believes in the right to choose. It's just a loser topic. You can't win on it. And in fact, I would say if the Roe v. Wade thing didn't happen when it happened, if it didn't happen yet, Trump would even be further ahead than he is. It's that one thing. I see so many interviews with these women. They go up and they say, what's the biggest thing for you? And they'll say, I don't want the government telling me what I can and cannot do with my body.
Where was that during COVID?
Exactly. But that's what I'm saying to you. I agree with you. It is a losing topic. It is a losing topic. I wish he would just not get into. And the problem is that Trump's a pretty honest guy, and he's going to speak his mind. He's not going to be with notes like you were saying. He's not going to be controlled. He's going to speak. And the problem with that is sometimes there's a point where you could say too much, and especially in his case where they hate him and they want to twist his words and want to make him out to he doesn't care about women. He wants to destroy women and everything else like that. And then they'll point to, oh yeah, here's a rapist and a misogynist and all these other different things. No wonder why, he can't win talking about this topic. And I just wish he would just say, listen, it's a state's issue, and I'm focused right now on the economy and securing our border and making it so this way families could survive in America.
We have a question here talk about parents and their children from Lou, and it's an interesting one. He asked, why has no one interviewed Kamala's father yet? Because if he were to be interviewed, it'd be the nail in the coffin. And I think that is in reference to the fact that, he is a Marxist economist. If you look at his positions when he was a professor, he is radical, and he is alive and well today, and yet he won't talk to her. He didn't show up to the DNC convention for when she won. And I know you always have a very good take with Obama's relationship with his father to prove something to him, but something seems to be off with the Kamala and her father stance there, considering they both share the same values.
So there's this little thing every presidential election. It's called the October surprise. And it is that thing that comes out that just tries to kick somebody to the gutter, and it's over. There's no surprises left for Trump. We've got everything. The only surprise that's left is, surprise, you're going to jail.
Yeah.
Don't be surprised if the surprise is just that. Because I know what I would do. I would be holding that thing until she didn't have a lot of time to respond to it. I'd be holding it, release. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then the issue you have with it, and you're asking the question why nobody's interviewed her yet. Because when you look at the big networks, you've only got Fox News, right? So nobody else is going to interview that. They're going to bury it. Nobody's going to look for that interview. So you don't have enough people on the right, big people, we don't have the equivalent of the New York Times. We've got the New York Post, right? And then you've got Fox News. You can't even put Newsmax in there. It's too small. So you've got a situation where the majority of the media wants to bury it, just like they did the Hunter Biden laptop story. So the question becomes, how does Trump do it if he can get it? And if he can get it, how do you put it out? And that's that. I don't know.
Kim also asked, can we have this every Friday live and chat open too?
Yeah, so the plan here, as we wipe this, end this session here today, we are, with the election now pretty much 2 months away, right after Labor Day, and mail-in ballots starting. So what we're doing, if you can't tell, is we're doing a lot of live shows from now to the election. And so we're going to try to do more with Team DML in the doing the live chat and stuff like that nature. So yeah, we'll start with Fridays, and but if we have our way, Monday through Friday from now to the election is always going to be a live show. So we'll be able to do this almost every single day. So that's that. All right, on behalf of Ryan, who did a great job today with the clips. It's not easy to get the clips together. He gets them together, he plays them on time, and he doesn't really get a lot of credit for it. So great job, Brian. Great job, Denny. Thank you, everybody on Rumble. Thank you, everybody on X. And, of course, thank you, everybody who's Team DML. Listen, I'm going to appeal one more time. If you could join Team DML, you could join for as low as $30 a year right now. We're running this special because it's the election. Usually it costs $200. If you could do that, it would be great. It would help us considerably. We don't do the advertising thing anymore. We don't let Google ads or any of these other different ads go on. We've been demonetized from Facebook. So the only way we stay on in business is through our membership. So if you can, we'd appreciate it. You go to teamdml.com. Make sure you download the DML News app from the Google Play Store, the Apple App Store. One other thing, because we have our newsletter every single morning, and I'm starting to see our newsletter is not being opened up as it was. And I'm getting a lot of, where is the newsletter? I'm not getting the newsletter. Where's the newsletter? And I tell people, go look at your spam, and they say it's in the spam. So
for me and Ryan, it went in our promotions the other day.
Did it? Yeah, it's starting.
Never done that before.
It's starting. They're doing it. It's the election season. If you had the DML News app, even if you didn't get the email in your email because it's in spam, you'd get the notification on the app that the newsletter was out there. So please, if nothing else, if you can't spend the money on Team DML, I get it. Just go download the DML News app, DML for Dennis Michael Lynch, DML News app from the Google Play Store, the Apple App Store, completely for free. You'll never miss a thing.
And just to mention for Team DML members, this weekend show will be a new Ryan's Cafe episode. So look out for that. It'll be Labor Day related. And then next week for the the movie review, we're going to do the Reagan film that's coming out in theaters.
Oh,
so,
cool.
Yeah, if anyone wants to try and go see it this weekend and support Dennis Quaid's take on Ronald Reagan, and we'll give her a review next weekend.
Sounds great. All right, everybody, until the next time, God willing, it's Monday. The boys will see you on the weekend. Stay well. May God bless you, your family, these United States, and Donald J. Trump.
And today's Team DML blessing goes out to Joanne Chrysler.
All right, Joanne, enjoy it. We'll talk to you soon.
Download the DML News app from the Google Play Store or the Apple App Store for breaking news, merchandise, films, exclusive content, and Team DML. Get the Dennis Michael Lynch podcast every day by subscribing on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, and download the DML News app from the Google Play Store or the Apple App Store for breaking news, merchandise, films, exclusive content, and Team DML.